Hey, good people. Davia here, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Shaker, a Davia Williams Stevenson podcast. It's going to be fun today. I'm talking to a young lady I've known for a number of years, and she is a graduate of
North Carolina
A&T. I don't know why I was going to put a wrong state on that, and I know better. I know better. Give me that symbol. What's that symbol for AT&T?
Come on. A&T, because they will kill me if I let you say AT&T. They will kill me.
Please correct me. I should be ashamed. Okay.
A&T all day.
Okay. A&T. And with a graduate degree from Georgetown University, and it's in something technical and what is it?
Integrated marketing communications. So
she bad. She's also my soror.
Okay.
Just drop a little.
Come on.
Okay. Drop that for me.
Just right here on the end.
Just a little bit. Okay. So we're going to hit a topic that is, I think, needs more discussion. It's empathy. We're going to talk about empathy today. One of Devan's other big projects is that she has a talk show. Mm-hmm. You told me how to describe your talk show, Devan, and I didn't take any notes. So will you tell us about Therapyy?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to be on your podcast.
I'm thrilled.
Secondly, yes, again, my name is Devan, and I have a podcast. I'm sorry, I have a podcast. You have a podcast. I have a show. Yep. I have a YouTube channel.
Speak it.
Okay.
Maybe a big show someday.
Maybe. Okay. Again, it's called Therapyy, and the premise of Therapyy is to help other people understand how to be empathetic towards other people. So in a very comedic way, right? You can see my personality. We teach people how to have empathy.
Which I love that. So it's interesting you talk about teach people how to have empathy. Because there's a lot of, like, is empathy a skill? Is it a disposition? Is it a personality trait? What do you think empathy is? How would you define empathy?
Well, I like to bring all of them into the circle when I'm talking about empathy. So when I say all of them, I mean sympathy. I like to think of sympathy, empathy, and then you said compassion, right? Yeah. Which actually we were talking off camera, and she brought compassion to the conversation, and it didn't even cross my mind to think about compassion. But when I think of empathy versus sympathy, we'll define sympathy first. Sympathy, in my opinion, is when you have a reaction to somebody else's situation or somebody else's emotions, right? So I'm giving you an example. So let's say you see somebody fall down the steps or something like that, and then you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad for you. I feel bad did you hurt yourself? Yeah, I feel really bad for you. Ooh, that's embarrassing. That's sympathy, right? I see the thing that you went through, and I understand that you went through a thing, and I have emotional reaction to the thing that you went through, right? But then we talk about empathy. Empathy is the connector. Empathy is I can feel exactly what it is that you're going through. So let's go the falling down the steps thing again. So let's say somebody falls down the steps and you run over to them and you're like, oh my God, my knee. I feel that my knee hurts. Your knee hurts. Our knee. We're sharing in each other's experiences, right? So I feel exactly what you're feeling as you're going through whatever it is you're going through. It's not I'm feeling exactly what you're going through as you're going through it. Yeah.
So is there a difference in empathy and I think you can even project emotion onto someone. So how do you know what they're feeling? You may say, I think you're probably feeling this. So I'm feeling that with you or for you. Right. So it's very shaded.
And there's a hodgepodge.
And very layered.
Right.
Your first example, I think you defined both in that first example. When you said falling down the steps, you say, ooh, you must feel bad that you fell down the steps. That must be embarrassing to me was an empathetic statement, not the sympathetic statement. It was, ooh, you fell down the steps. That hurts. That probably hurts. Yeah. I don't feel that hurt because I'm standing over here.
Right. Watching you. I'm watching you fall.
So I don't feel that pain. But when I say that must be embarrassing, I think that's a place where you relate it to what it must feel like. Like I would feel embarrassed if I fell down the steps. So I assume that you probably feel embarrassed and connect with you on that.
Right.
So even in that though, is that empathy or is that a projection? Because I would fall down the steps and I don't know that I feel embarrassed.
It's a projection. It's not, that is not empathy. Okay, so that, and I'm glad you made that connection. So I feel embarrassed for you is not, you feel embarrassed and we're experiencing the same thing, because I'm assuming that you feel embarrassed, right? That projection part.
Because that's what I would feel.
Right, because that's what I would feel. But how you actually feel in that situation, it could not be it could be something completely different. Like, I don't feel embarrassed, I feel sad, or I feel angry, or I feel whatever. So whatever that emotion that they're feeling, and then you understanding what they're feeling and feeling that emotion while they're feeling it, that is empathy. That is that connection. So, the reason why I even want to talk about empathy, the reason why I even care about empathy so much, is because there is going to be a point in your life, in everybody's life, where you're not going to understand the actions or the emotions of somebody that you love. And you're going to need to remove or move outside of your own experiences to understand their experiences. So let's say, for example, you're in a relationship with somebody, right? And everybody's going to be in a relationship eventually. Hopefully everybody can, have that experience in their life.
With somebody,
exactly.
If you know people, you're in some sort of relationship.
If you know people, you're in some sort of relationship. So, if you're in a relationship with somebody, or you have a relationship and you guys are two completely different people, you're coming from two different experiences, whether you've known each other your whole life or not, the way you experience things is completely different than the way they experience things. So when you come together and you're having a disagreement about something, the way you have gone through things in your life and the way they have gone through things in their life might allow you guys to miss the connection, miss the understanding. But when you can empathize with somebody, which means I understand how you feel past my own experiences, then we can build a bridge to have conversations about, okay, well, I don't understand how you feel. I haven't experienced what you have experienced, but I understand how you feel. And I understand why you reacted the way you reacted. So now that allows me to give you some grace. That allows me to see you as your whole person, not just as me seeing you through my own emotions or my own experiences. So it just opens up people to be able to connect to each other past themselves. And that's super necessary. It is extremely necessary to be able to connect with people past yourself, because you don't just live in a world by yourself. You live with other people.
You used a good example. We just had a little conversation beforehand about empathy, a natural kind of empathetic response. When you see a baby just laugh, just crack up, right? A little baby doesn't have all of the cognitive stuff yet to understand sarcasm, maybe even humor. But when a baby laughs, can you not laugh when a baby's laughing? Because their joy is just infectious. It's an empathy moment, I think. And I thought it was a great example. I want to use a couple of definitions, and I want to read them because I don't want to
respect.
Use somebody else's words and I give them credit. Now, this one is from the famous Wikipedia, so we're good with that one. Okay. Empathy is the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within their frame of reference. That is the capacity to place oneself in another's position. Is that your premise?
Absolutely.
So Brene Brown, who is just kind of a hero of mine, I would probably have a fangirl moment if I could have a conversation with Brene Brown. She distinguishes empathy and sympathy. She says empathy is a skill that can bring people together and can make people feel included. Or sympathy versus sympathy, which creates an uneven power dynamic and can lead to more isolation and disconnection. Now, this might be in the framework of one of her business books. I'm guessing it might be Dare to Lead. It's another one of her brilliant books. So the experience she seems to be describing here, is more maybe group-like than interpersonal, but I think it still very much applies. What do you think about that distinction? Do you think sympathy can be isolating?
Yes, I think sympathy can be isolating because you're not, again, the frame of reference. I love that Wikipedia said within your frame of reference, because when you remove yourself from your own frame of reference, right? And you're like, when I say remove yourself from your own frame of reference, I mean, again, the experiences that you have define, who you are, if you allow them and all that stuff. And they also define that other person, right? Their experiences define themselves,
Yes.
right? So if you don't understand their experiences, you've never had that experience, you've never wanted to have that experience, it just has never been something that you have, endured, I guess, then the way that you need to, how do I explain this? The level of understanding that you have to have for somebody else is the only way that you can be human, in my opinion. Okay. I think that when you feel bad for people and you don't take into consideration how they feel about a situation, it kind of diminishes a little bit of your humanity, because we are all connected energies, right? I don't want to get all woo on you. Okay, I don't want to get woo. But when people start talking about
woo if we go there.
When people start talking about, burning sage and transferring energies and all that stuff.
That makes me a little nervous. I don't know a lot about that.
So let's not get woo. Okay, let's not get woo. Okay. Let's just something that we all know. Okay, energy does not leave. Okay, it doesn't go anywhere. It just transfers. So if I am somebody who is telling you that I need this thing, right? And my energy is saying, I need this thing. And your energy is saying, nah, well, I don't want to receive none of what you're saying. We now are, not only are we miscommunicating with each other, we're not understanding each other. We can't grow together. You can't even see my whole person, because our energies aren't matching. They're not meeting each other. You're unwilling to understand my language, if that makes sense.
It does. So let me ask you this. What do you think about there being more than one type of empathy? Cognitive empathy.
Absolutely.
Like, what if you start there with this person that doesn't? Cognitive empathy would be more like perspective.
Right.
Thinking.
Exactly.
I can maybe see your perspective.
Yep. Exactly.
That in and of itself is the first step toward being in their space.
Absolutely.
Right? I move from my chair to yours, which feel like we might be doing that anyway. Like, you're handling this, okay? Because you have a TV show. I am learning. You also help. Yeah, it's a whole lot to me and Devan's relationship. But I love you. What are we talking about? Empathy and perspective taking. So cognitive empathy being perspective taking.
Yes.
Emotional empathy or affective empathy, meaning the emotional space.
Yes.
Ideally, it would be wonderful to have
all of those.
But if it's a skill, let's say it's a skill. I think it is all those things, like you said, a skill that can be learned.
Yep.
There's some studies that say empathy really is taught typically by men to children. It's the fathers that teach empathy. And I think about, I have 2 sons, and I think they have a lot of emotional capacity, both of my sons. But I think it's because with me, I thought, because I'm, always talking about feelings, and they have emotional language.
Yes.
And, what did you think about? Did you think about this person? I thought they learned their empathy from me, but fairness is an empathetic quality, an empathy teaching quality, or embedded in empathy. And they're saying that fathers or those who are rougher, I mean, everybody has a different family configuration, right? We don't all come from 2-parent families or have come from families where even if you have 2 parents, they're both engaged in the child's life. There's all manner of configurations. So it's probably better to use nurturers, whoever your primary nurturers are.
You would think.
That would be, we'll work with that.
Right.
We'll go with that. But let's say from a traditional perspective, you're one of the fortunate ones to have an engaged male figure in your life. Men play with children differently. They talk with children differently. And it seems like it's typically not as soft and emotion laden. It's play the game fair, play the game hard. It's this kids, fathers will toss kids up in the air.
Okay, and you're scared.
But they learn trust in that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you learn. And I remember, my kids are grown now. And so when I look back, I think anybody who has the opportunity to raise some children will at some point look back and kind of do a postmortem on your parenting. And there are things I wish I'd done differently. And one of the things I wish I'd done differently is I often softened my husband's message to the kids. I thought he might be harsher in his way. And I'm developing these just
precious
boy male people. And I think there are things they needed to hear from their father in the way that a father teaches them.
Okay.
And so I wonder, in the vast configuration of families, those who don't have the opportunity to have that type of energy
Mm-hmm.
that says, I might throw you up in the air, but you're going to trust that I catch you because I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to keep throwing you up in the air. What do you learn about that?
Mm-hmm.
When I say, I think there's something about the whole participation trophy of your generation that was not helpful in the long run. It's not the real world. It doesn't teach you how to have
fair.
empathy. Because if nobody loses and nobody wins, then there's a whole space of growth in sharing one another's experience, I think, in that place.
I think people, I'm gonna come back, but
Okay.
The participation trophy thing, I've heard that a lot from a lot of different generations. Like, there should be some losers and there should be some winners, but I agree that if you earn the win and you earn the loss, definitely both sides. But I think the motivation or the thought process behind that was nobody wants to feel bad losing. Like, we don't want anybody's child, even if they've worked hard and they've been here every day and, they only got to play 2 games and you know what I mean? Like, they want everybody to feel like they've won, and to feel seen. So from that perspective, that wasn't wrong. Like, that's not wrong to want every child or every person to even experience a win or to experience being included or, whatever. But the way to go about it, everybody is not the same. Everybody does not experience everything the same. So you giving a participation trophy to a child who's not going to appreciate it is not going to receive it the same way that a child who has been there every day, who is like, this is my team, I'm so excited to work here, they're going to receive it completely differently. So like, you can't give a one and done for everybody in any way, which is why empathy is so important. I cannot blanket anybody's experiences. Being empathetic, you cannot do that. Physically, you cannot do that because you just can't. Everybody's experiences are different. Like, literally, we could do the exact same thing and our interpretation of those things will be completely different. And that's okay, because we need other people's experiences to make us whole as well. We need other experiences to open our eyes to the possibilities of things we never even thought about. So, I need people to be more empathetic. I don't even know how to say it any better than that.
It's the goal of your show,
yes.
right? And so you present in comedic ways.
Yes, absolutely.
But you've tackled some subjects that are, the subjects aren't necessarily lighthearted and nuanced. I think you hit some nuanced topics. Use comedy to soften the pathway in or out. Yeah.
Because that's the best way, to be honest with you, across the board.
Therapy, y'all. That's what it's called.
Cocoa therapy. That is the best way. Comedy, in my opinion, I wouldn't say this about everybody, but comedy, in my opinion, is the best way to reach someone when you're trying to give them serious information and you want them to receive it. Because, again, you don't know how they were raised. You don't know how they receive criticisms. You don't know. But people can recognize themselves in humor. And they can recognize themselves safely in humor. Like, ha ha ha, that was funny. Ha ha, I do that. Instead of, I don't do that. Like, I would never do that. Like, so receiving it, the way you deliver the message and the way they receive it is just as important. So
I didn't hear anywhere in your resume, clinical therapy or anything like that.
She's trying to get me, y'all.
It sure sound like that's happening.
Okay, so let's just brag on Davia for Libby. Okay, let's just brag on Davia. Okay, just really quickly. So I met Miss Stevenson a couple years ago. I want to say like 5, 6 years. Maybe 5, 6 years ago. And she was actually my therapist. Right? Okay, so I was going through a lot. Okay, I had just graduated from Mind Your Business. Okay, I just graduated. And I was I had lost my job. I had lost a boyfriend. Like, everything I was losing a lot at one time. And I had never lost so much at one time. I felt like I was starting from ground zero. So having to face all that loss by myself, and not by myself as in I don't have a support system, because my support system is amazing. They are the reason why I got into therapy, because they were like, I can't help you. I can't give you the tools that I feel like you need in order to be the best person. So I'm going to lead you to where you need to go. And then I met Davia, and she opened my eyes up to, one, I didn't know that I was facing loss. Like, I didn't realize that that's what it was. Yes, that I had to grieve. So those were her words that I'm bringing back. But she said, I was grieving and I needed to grieve my losses. And that opened up my mind to like, oh my God, that is what I'm having right now. That is the moment that I'm having. I am grieving and I am sad. And I need to talk to somebody about it who can, like you said, a bird's eye view, who can see my entire life or can see, the experiences that I'm having, who's not in it with me, but that can see and kind of help direct, help me understand what I'm going through.
And I think for you just needed space to know that you weren't the loser.
Right.
You had losses.
Right.
And you just needed some room. Like you've heard her speak. She handled a lot of it on her own, but I appreciate your insurance company give me those checks.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
No, but you did your work. But I think that whole reason why it worked was that you had an opportunity to feel seen because there was a connection of empathy.
Absolutely.
Right?
You hear what she said, Joe?
I just made her point.
Okay. Did you hear what she said, Joe?
I could feel what you were feeling. I could put you in that place, but I didn't have to live in it with you. I could meet you there, help you recognize it, and then you did the work that you needed to do. I don't always get to have personal relationships with those people that I meet professionally. And for the board, we waited the appropriate amount of time. You have to wait at least 2 years before you have a personal relationship with someone, 2 years from the end of a therapeutic encounter to have a personal relationship. I think we did that plus some. But I am thrilled. You were one of those people. I'm human too. Right? I certainly care about all of those who I get to work with in a professional capacity. But I knew that your spirit was one that I wanted in my life, and you're providing even a leadership role for me. Devan is also helping me in producing this podcast, along with my other crack folks, this crack team.
Okay, come on.
Videographer and
come on.
Kay, who wears a whole bunch of hats, and we'll have their credits rolling at some point. You need to know who these people are. But I can tell you, I have grown.
Absolutely.
I get challenged. Yeah. Challenged.
Okay. Challenged.
From Devan at times, and it's a good thing. And I think it's because another thing that empathy allows is for you to be safe.
Absolutely.
Safety is huge. Safety says what can reside in empathy is non-judgment.
Come on.
That's important, right? So I can make a mistake, say something offhand, as can you, whatever. And because there's a connection already of safety, we have room to rebound from that.
Absolutely.
Say, okay, let's do a redo, or okay, we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay.
I hear you in this. This has been your word. So I hear you. Are you saying that you're not okay? Well,
exactly.
Think about.
Instead, maybe we could, what? Let's come back tomorrow. Let's just come back to it tomorrow. Yes. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Safety, 100%. When I talk about those intimate relationships or just relationships in general, meeting somebody where they are is that safety part that you were talking about. Like, they can make a mistake and feel safe enough in our relationship that they can either come to me with the mistake or that they know that I will understand why they did what they did. That doesn't mean that there won't be consequences, right?
Sure.
Consequences, right?
Hurts are hurts.
Right? Because hurts are hurts, right? But that we can get past that hurt faster because there's that trust there. There's that safety there. There's that empathy that says to me that I know that you're going to look out for me. I know that you have my best interest at heart no matter what. And that can be good and bad, right? Depending on the type of, person that is receiving that, because there are some people who will abuse that, right? There are some people who abuse the empathy. They will abuse the fact that you are empathetic with them. A lot of narcissists, like people who are just will take advantage of vulnerabilities. Like some people will do that.
That's a common pattern.
Right.
Narcissists and empaths.
Yeah.
They find one another somehow.
Yep.
The capacity to keep understanding and trying to give, it's really a lot of projection from the empath, but trying to give context for your behavior and trying to give all, you probably don't mean that, maybe.
Yep.
And the narcissist who doesn't have that empathic Quality, yeah. So when we talk about empathy being a skill, there are probably circumstances where that skill isn't able to be learned, and you see the disconnect, such as with someone who has a narcissistic personality disorder, right? Now that's a whole thing, the personality disorder. That person, a big part of, we're gonna have a whole mental health moment here. Those who have disordered personalities is an inability to see themselves.
Yes. Yep.
If you cannot see yourself, you can't step outside of yourself to see someone else.
Literally.
That's what's disordered. That person is not likely to be taught empathy.
Yep.
That person can be taught compassion. Compassion is action, right? You can be taught to go volunteer at the thing for the people and not really care about the thing that the people, right? So, and then sometimes we find on the autism spectrum, right, just an inability to see outside of yourself from different reasons of disordered personality. But but those of us with empathy have got to understand that deficit, that inability to connect, and not attribute intent to that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Empaths have a really big problem of this is projecting, but sometimes, in my opinion, empaths have a problem with boundaries.
Yeah.
So like you said, narcissists and empaths sometimes find each other a lot because narcissists need somebody that is going to continue to give to them and continue to feed to them without necessarily giving it back. Right. And empaths are going to continue to give because they want to understand. They want to know and they want to care and they want to fix and heal. So they come together on, sometimes on accident, sometimes on purpose. But at the end of the day, boundaries are necessary for empaths too. So I also teach that on my show too. There, you have to have an understanding of okay, this is my level of emotional intelligence. We didn't talk about emotional intelligence, but
we'll do a part
we'll
two
come
or
back.
something.
But my level of emotional intelligence is high, and most empaths, their level of emotional intelligence is high as well. So we can hear and see and understand other people's emotions, even if they don't understand it themselves. And sometimes it's difficult to do that because the other person may not receive what you're saying or might not even understand what you're saying because they haven't realized it in themselves. And they're like, how are you telling me something about myself that I don't understand. So then you have to, set boundaries as an empath to be like, okay, I respect that you don't understand why I understand how you're feeling.
That's a lot of levels.
Exactly. So it really is, but it doesn't have to be for a beginner. So it doesn't have to be that for a beginner. What I'm talking about when I say boundaries for the people who are super empathetic, who are like dating narcissists or around narcissists or around people who don't understand or use the fact that you're an empath, you need boundaries. You need to set up some boundaries. But then on the flip side, if you're somebody who's not empathetic at all, you need to learn how to be a little bit, even if you said, would you say cognizant? Cognitive.
Which is perspective.
Right. Mm-hmm. Cognitive, empathy or emotional empathy. We want you to have both. Just in life, I would love for everybody to have both things. But like you said, everybody has different experiences. So, but we can hope to give them, one or the other.
I like it. This was a lively discussion. I'd love to address, maybe we'll do this. I think part of what was fun about this was the generational difference, kind of the professional lens, the experiential lens. I love that. So since as you are helping me develop this program,
absolutely,
maybe we can think about doing some things like that. I hope this was helpful. I know it was incomplete, and so that's good. I hope it leaves you wanting a little bit more. So this has been another episode of Tales from the Shaker, a Davia Williams Stevenson podcast. Oh, we've got a toast. I made a cocktail for us. I made a grapefruit basil cocktail. I use Kettle One, vodka, 2 ounces of vodka, 2 ounces of grapefruit juice, some fresh basil leaves. I keep my little herb garden out there. Crushed ice, shook it up, a little bit of simple syrup, and that's what we're gonna toast to today.
I'm so excited.
All right. Cheers. This has been another episode of Tales from the Shaker, a Davia Williams Stevenson podcast. Cheers, folks.